Good morning. I'm Steve Koleno, and these are confidential remarks. If I asked a room full of homeowners whether they wanted privacy, discretion, and exclusivity when selling their home, most would immediately say yes. Because those words sound valuable. They sound sophisticated. They sound like something reserved for the highest end of the market. But what if the very thing being sold as a benefit is actually working against the seller's financial interest? That's the question we're going to explore today. Because in real estate, exposure creates competition. Competition creates leverage, and leverage creates value. So before accepting the promise of privacy, we need to understand its price. The private listing is often packaged as a luxury product. We're told it provides quiet luxury, premium access, discreet marketing, exclusive buyers, and on the surface, that sounds compelling. But none of those phrases answer the most important question. Does this strategy produce the highest possible outcome for the seller? Because luxury branding and financial outcomes are not the same thing. One appeals to emotion. The other determines what ends up in the seller's bank account. This presentation is not about whether private listings sound attractive. It's about whether they serve the seller as effectively as open market competition. Let's decode the language. When someone says, "We'll market it discreetly to our network first," they're describing a smaller audience. When someone says, "We'll delay going public strategically," they're describing a delay in market exposure. When someone says, "We'll provide exclusive access to premium buyers," they're describing fewer buyers competing for the asset. Notice a pattern. The language changes, the outcome doesn't. Every version reduces exposure, and when exposure is reduced, competition is reduced. The seller may hear exclusivity. The market hears limitation. On the left side of this slide, you see what a healthy marketplace looks like. One property, thousands of potential buyers, hundreds of agents, maximum visibility, maximum competition. On the right side, you see a closed loop system. The brokerage acquires the listing, keeps it off the MLS, then attempts to source the buyer internally. The home never fully enters the marketplace. The competition never fully develops. And the brokerage gains the opportunity to control both sides of the transaction. The question becomes very simple. Who benefits most from that arrangement? The seller wants one thing: maximum exposure, because maximum exposure increases the probability of maximum price. The brokerage may want something different. It may prefer to keep the transaction internal, retain both sides of the commission, and maintain control of the process. Neither objective is difficult to understand, but they are not the same objective. One side benefits from more competition. The other side may benefit from less. Understanding incentives is often the fastest way to understand behavior. Markets reward competition, not secrecy, not exclusivity, competition. The left side of this slide shows what happens when a property is exposed to the full market. More buyers discover it, more buyers evaluate it, more buyers compete for it. That competition creates leverage for the seller. The right side shows what happens when exposure is restricted. Fewer buyers participate, fewer offers emerge, and the seller has fewer opportunities to create pricing pressure. The difference isn't complicated. More exposure creates more opportunities. Less exposure creates fewer opportunities. Every decision in real estate carries a cost. The challenge is that some costs are visible and others are hidden. The hidden cost of exclusivity is opportunity. The buyer who never saw the property. The competing offer that never materialized. The bidding war that never happened. The leverage that never existed. When exposure decreases, opportunities decrease. And when opportunities decrease, value can decrease along with them. That gap is what this slide calls the exclusivity penalty. The next time you hear the phrase exclusive network, ask a simple question. Exclusive compared to what? compared to every buyer in the market, compared to every agent in the market, compared to every qualified bidder who could potentially compete for the property. Because the goal of a seller should never be access to a smaller audience. The goal should be access to the largest qualified audience possible. The moment you start asking those questions, the sales pitch begins to look very different. Let's finish where we started. Privacy may feel valuable. Exclusivity may sound valuable. But value in real estate is created by competition. The most luxurious outcome is not secrecy. It is leverage. It is demand. It is multiple buyers competing for the same asset. If your goal is to maximize value, expose your property to the market. Let buyers compete, let the market speak, and let competition determine price. Protect your asset. Protect your leverage. Demand full exposure. Thank you. This has been Confidential Remarks.